Hey guys, welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, and up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah, and going with the theme of this month of change and all the things that involve change. We're going to talk today about misunderstandings, not misunderstandings, because, well, that's actually involved, but also misunderstandings. Recognizing moments of growth and change despite what you may be dealing with as a collective, and kind of holding firm to that and being proud of that. So stay tuned. And if you haven't done so and you would like to do so, subscribe to the podcast to stay up to date, comment, review. All those things matter. They help me. They help the podcast grow, and it helps get the message out there, get some positivity in the world. Heaven knows we need it. And it just creates that infinity, of course. And if you want to go even further, head on over to the Patreon at patreon.com/thebirdbrainpodcast, where you can donate and help support and keep this little birdie afloat. So yeah, sit back for this one. It's going to be interesting.
Rise above it all. Stay elevated. And create that infinity. Of your you. Of your you.
I just want to say October is almost over. And I haven't been doing much in terms of celebrating. And this has been happening for quite some time. I'm not happy about it, but it is what it is. There's been other things going on in October, though, I will say, that gives me cause to, 1, celebrate, 2, recognize, and 3, embrace. So, yeah. How are you guys doing? How was your week? How have you been? What's new that you noticed? What's old that you need to address? What's going on in your world? For me, this week alone, it's so great that I'm able to always come to you guys with a different, message or perspective week to week, because it just lets you know, regardless of what kind of mental vortex you seem like you're caught up in, there are a lot of things happening around you in life, and life is constantly changing if you're willing to recognize it. So today's topic obviously is misunderstandings, and it's a play on words because I think for me personally, there's been I've just been focusing on growth and just really holding firm to changes and being willing to embrace changes, good and situations that may not seem good in the moment, but are moments, learning moments. And, with a healthy dose of optimism, not delusion, really recognizing the things that are working in my favor. And last week was no different. This was a potent experience, I think, because it was a moment, a very close friend of mine, we'll call her Kelly. She and I, we had a big disagreement, not even disagreement. I'd say just things transpired over one night, and it just really left things foggy and kind of ugly. And it was a moment for us both to recognize a few things. Now, for starters, we go into situations, and I've talked about this in previous episodes. We go into situations, or I do, based off of patterns. Everything is based off of patterns. Who you are in this present moment is based off of pattern behavior, whether it's external or internal. What you've practiced, what you've observed, and how you've kind of operated to get by honestly, to get by. So when this particular situation happened, Kelly and I, we were hanging out with some friends, and our the energy was just different this time around, and we hang out a lot, so we're always kicking it. There's never really any issue or cause of concern, but this particular night, things just went south. And what it left was Kelly and I not really speaking to one another. And when we did speak, it was more of kind of approaching each other like we were strangers almost, and kind of being like, well, you did this and this hurt me, or you did this and this hurt me. And, I don't know where we go from here, so on and so forth, or just really kind of an end all be all approach in certain ways. Now, for me, based off of history, I know me personally, this is talking about Isaiah right now. Whenever I'm in a situation with at this point, friend, someone that's close to me, somebody I consider close, and there's a moment of a disagreement, or it just feels like this person is close enough to me that they would know that this would be a trigger, I usually just shut down and take a step back, and I'm like, all right, cool. I see what this is. There's no access anymore. Like, that block goes up, I shut down, and I take a step back, and I'm like, well, obviously this person does not, either they don't care, not that they don't necessarily recognize, it's just that they don't care. They don't have my best interests at heart. So therefore, I don't retreat. I'd say I take a step back, and I don't move forward with that relationship. And that's just been my way of operating through life, because it's, in certain ways, it's a defense mechanism. It's like, recognizing something in that moment and understanding, all right, I don't want to do this again, recognizing it in that moment. But the flip side is sometimes you can be wrong, and that's a good thing. Whenever there is a moment or an opportunity for you to see things differently, embrace that. And this particular situation with Kelly and I was a great opportunity, because I know for me, I'm like, usually when certain things like this happen, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm checking out. That's it for me. This person, this is who they are, and that is whatever. We're done. And that's it. Neither person really tries to rectify the situation, or just comes to a moment of clarity. It's just like, it's an even wash. And, the battlefield is left just kind of dusty and confusing, and there's smoke in the air. And sometimes that smoke just goes through the years to the point that in reality, the casualty is the relationship. And that's just what it is. Both people move on with their lives, and boom, that's it. But in this particular situation, I realized this was a moment of growth for me. So when I talk about change, when I talk about, seeking things differently, when I talk about wanting different, it's important to recognize how you are doing things different too, to get different results. So like I said, for me, my typical pattern is shut down, check out. This person no longer has access. And for some, it was necessary. I will admit, it's been necessary in some relationships, because I realized that there was a lopsided kind of connection. And, in terms of who this person was and what they were doing in the relationship, yeah, they didn't need to have access anymore. So I cut them off. But this particular situation with Kelly, I realized it was very different. And the reason why I realized it was different is because it felt different. And, Kelly and I, we also handle situations differently. She's like, all right, let's figure it out. Let's have the conversation in the moment. I felt like this particular situation didn't call for us to have a conversation in the very moment, because there were so many things that needed to be cleared up first, so many things that needed to be processed first. And usually whenever things happen, I like to take a step back and just process and figure out, all right, what was my responsibility in this situation? Am I feeling this way? Is it visceral because of a previous experience, or because this actual situation is how I feel is valid? And my perception of the person or the situation, is it valid, or is there just something that I'm missing? Whenever things like that happen and they affect me deeply, I like to take a step back to process. So I did that. And Kelly, on the other end, she's a firecracker. Like I said, one of my closest friends. So, her approach was very different. But after a couple of days, after a few email exchanges, it was necessary for us to have the conversation in person. And we both understood, is like, look, we both have past experiences of shitty things happening. But when it comes down to it, Kelly is one of my best friends and I'm one of hers, without a doubt. And we look out for each other. When it's all said and done, this one particular situation did not compromise what I thought or felt about her. And it was such a breath of fresh air to recognize for me, because initially in the moment I was like, I just don't know what's going on. I don't know what to feel about this. But one thing I'm not angry. I'm not angry at her. I'm not angry at the situation. I just don't know what to feel. And I explained that to her. And, we both went through our checks and balances of what happened this particular night. And, basically it was just miscommunication with a lot of external factors involved that created a situation that's usually not the norm for either of us when we are hanging out with each other. And we had the conversation. And, in that moment I realized there are some relationships that, beneath the surface, beneath the actual argument, beneath the situation that you're dealing with at hand, are valuable and worth fighting for, worth the clarity, worth the communication. They're just worth more than the flybys. And that was different for me to feel, not just think, but also feel and trust, because despite the communication that we had, there was never a point where I was like, all right, this friendship is done for me. That never crossed my mind. And it was surprising to me, because I think that's been the first time in a long time, or if ever, if I've thought that about a friend of mine. And that just let me know, it's like, okay, I've been wanting different. I've been wanting to cultivate more very valuable relationships, or invaluable relationships. And also, understanding that in order for me to have those kinds of relationships, I have to step up too, and I have to be different. I have to approach a situation very different, and I have to understand things from multiple sides. And this was a growing moment for me, and I was happy about that. I was really happy. I was like, you know what? I'm glad we had the conversation. It took a couple of days, but still, the fact of the matter is that we both walked away understanding that our relationship is much more than just a flyby. There's not, you'll have so many relationships in your life, and some of them may expire, others may last for a while and then expire, but then there's some that you just feel on a deeper level that are worth sustaining, maintaining, and continuously advancing. And I can honestly say is like, this is one of them. And the reason why is because I recognize that she works to be a positive and influential component in my life as much as I do hers. And when you have someone like that, you work to maintain that no matter what, because you understand, despite a disagreement, at the core, the intentions are there. That could have been a missed opportunity to understand that things are in fact changing in my life, because I'm working at it. There's this book I read called Until Today. I love this book. Basically every day has a passage. Every month has a different theme. October, surprisingly enough, is about worth. Trusting yourself, calling yourself on your own bullshit, which is a lot of times what we kind of step over. Understanding worth and realizing a lot of times the friction that happens in relationships is just basically you thinking that on a deeper level you don't deserve good things, or that this person kind of sees into your insecurities and your doubt and your lack of self-worth. You know what I mean? So when you are working at things that, I guess, just reinforce who you are as a person, your integrity, your character, your ability to recognize your faults and your ability to hold yourself accountable, those are all indications that you value yourself, but two, you value the people that you're interacting with, and you understand there are some people who are worth the communication. So this book has been great for that. And it's so funny because it's usually on the mark every day is eerily accurate. And some people could say, oh, you're just tying it to the situation of, to make it relevant, kind of like astrology. There are some days that literally just flat out, I'd say, reflect exactly what's happening in my life in the moment. So I love this book. Like I said, it's great. And October has been very much about worth. And, interestingly enough, around this time, things usually slow down in terms of career stuff, acting and everything. All those things slow down. So there's no real tangibility in terms of, am I making progress or things like this. I was actually talking to my mom before, and she was asking me about the podcast. And she's like, how's it been going? Are there more people listening, or, how do you know? Is it working for you? And I said to her, I'm like, it's been progression, I said, but I'm not in it for instant gratification. And I was like, what's progress? I was like, define progress. She's like, yeah, you know what? You're right. And, for me, that was a moment of clarity for myself as well, because I realized sometimes the external reward doesn't come right away, but you have to look at what changes you've made and advance in your process. So as of late, it's been, for me, 3 episodes a week instead of, just a normal 2. Writing stories, creating more stories, and just doing my thing. And it's been fun, and I've been so caught up in getting work done that I've finally been able to take steps back and realize, okay, I've been making progress, and the reason why I've been making progress is because I've literally been making progress. I've been finding ways to progress and advance and just do things different, add something a little bit different, and just enjoy myself most of all. And, on those slow days, on those days it gets darker early, literally and figuratively speaking, it's important to take a look at what you've been doing and be proud of that. I am proud that I've been just working my ass off in multiple ways, work, writing, working, creating, and also just kind of holding firm to what my core values are and recognizing those. Even something else that I've noticed that I've been doing different is, we started saying I love you on the phone more. When I talk to my mom, I make sure before I hang up, I say I love you. When I talk to my sister, make sure before I hang up, I say I love you. Brother, same thing. With my friends, that's something that I've been making it a point to do. And it just feels good. And I recognize it's different because I didn't always do that, for one reason or another. But now it's like it's a part of me. It's a part of my process. And, I think there's nothing more rewarding than, somebody let you know, hey, you matter. Before I hang up this phone, I just want to let you know I care about you and you matter. And to me, that's a missed opportunity of understanding too, if you don't recognize, just how you give love and how you receive it, because that goes a long way. Just letting people know that they matter, that helps, especially when you're having a rough day. Saying it or hearing it goes both ways. So even that to me stuck out today when I got off the phone. It was like, oh, that's also a thing that I've been making a point to work at. So, I bring up these things in this particular episode just because, as small as they seem, our relationships really reflect our surroundings and our relationships with ourselves, our relationships with other people, our relationships with our work, our relationships with a reward system or lack thereof. All of that affects just how we move. So if you find that you are caught up in this vortex of just, seeing that you're working your ass off, and maybe you see other people progressing, but you think you're not moving anywhere, take a step back and just look at the small things you've been doing. And even if you don't see anything happening right away, just trusting that it's all leading up to something. You know, even recognizing your thought process. Has it changed at all? Yeah, just the little things. So I think that, like I said, to bring it all back to circle, my biggest moment of understanding that things are in fact changing is just how I handled a situation with someone else very differently than how I would usually handle it, and how we both understood the value of our relationship was worth much more than our previous experiences with different people, because it's not fair to bring past experiences to a new situation that doesn't reflect those old experiences. Sometimes it's just how you react more than the actual situation itself. Our pattern behavior can make us think that we are existing in the same cycle of what's happened to us in the past, when in reality it's just a defense mechanism. It's a fight or flight kind of knee-jerk reaction. So recognize that and understand, yeah, there are some relationships that are worth fighting for. May not be many, but for the few that are, recognize that and make it a point to change just how you operate and approach it. And just move from there, you know? I hope you guys have an amazing week. If you want to stay up to date, follow on Instagram, follow on Twitter at the Bird Brain Podcast. You can email at thebirdbrainpodcast@gmail.com. And if you're familiar with Discord, come hang out in Podcast Junkie Discord server. And yeah, listen to us anywhere you listen to podcasts. And we're also on YouTube now. So there's that. So yeah, guys, I hope you have an amazing week. I love you guys. And again, just do your best to keep your heart space clean, your head space clean, and know that you're worth it. You know, all this work that sucks and that feels like crap, it's all worth it. Trust that. Take flight.